Chosen one, why are you still here? After everything that should have taken you out, after the diagnosis that rewrote your future in one sentence, after the marriage that dissolved like smoke in your hands, after the children who stopped calling, after the savings that vanished, after the grief that moved into your chest like a permanent tenant and never paid rent, after the silence from heaven that lasted so long, you stopped checking your spiritual mailbox. Why are you still here? Because, beloved, that is not luck, that is not stubbornness, that is not your personality, that is not coincidence wrapped in a motivational story, that is a verdict. Handed down from a courtroom you never saw, in a session you never attended, about a test you never even knew you were taking. And the verdict reads, passed. You thought God was absent during those years when your prayers hit the ceiling and fell back cold. You thought the silence meant rejection. You thought being overlooked, outpaced, and pressed beyond human limit meant heaven had moved on to someone younger, someone less broken, someone who hadn't made your mistakes. You were not being ignored, you were being measured, and what heaven discovered about you in those 3A.M. rooms, in those hospital waiting chairs, in those kitchens where you stood alone carrying everybody while nobody carried you, is exactly why April 14th and 15th are not ordinary days on your calendar. They are a threshold, the moment the sealed verdict finally gets read aloud. Stay with me, because by the time this message is finished, you will understand why your life felt heavier than everyone else's, why the silence lasted as long as it did, why the dreams got buried instead of launched, and what heaven right now, tonight, is finally ready to tell you. The fact that you are still listening is evidence that you passed something most people never even recognized they were in. Type it right now. 2 words. I passed. Not because you have all the answers yet, because your spirit already knows you survived for a reason. Chosen ones, you passed. It's time to tell you everything. April 14 and 15. Let me tell you what nobody ever sat down and explained to you. The test was disguised as ordinary suffering. It did not arrive with a warning label. It did not come announced by angels or outlined in a letter from heaven. It came dressed as a difficult season, a long silence, a door that would not open, a prayer that seemed to evaporate before it reached the ceiling. And you did what faithful people do. You kept going. You served when your own soul was running on empty. You loved people who fundamentally misunderstood you. You stayed soft after betrayal that would have hardened most people into stone. You kept showing up in the pew, in the prayer room, in the kitchen, in the hospital waiting room, doing what was right while nobody was watching and nobody was applauding. That was not weakness, beloved. That was the test. But here is the cruelest part of what you endured. It was not just the pain itself. It was what the pain whispered to you while you were in it. You heard it. You know exactly what I mean. That voice in the quiet. That question that surfaced at 3 inches the morning when the house was still and your heart was loud. Did I do something wrong? Did God skip me? Is it too late for me now? Those questions were not coming from your faith. They were coming from the enemy. And his deepest weapon was never the suffering itself. His most devastating tool was the wrong interpretation of your suffering. He could not stop what God was building in you. So he tried to convince you that what was being built was actually a ruin. He wanted you to read preparation as punishment. He wanted you to translate delay as denial. He wanted you to look at the silence and conclude abandonment. Think about Job. This man lost everything in a single day. Children, livestock, health, security, and his own friends sat beside him and told him he must have sinned, that God was punishing him. That suffering of that magnitude had to be connected to some hidden failure. They were wrong. Every single one of them was wrong. Job 23:10 declares it plainly. He knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Not broken, not discarded. Gold. Think about Joseph, 17 years old when his own brothers threw him in a pit and sold him like he meant nothing. 13 years of slavery and false imprisonment followed. 13 years of being forgotten by the very people he helped. But Genesis 50:20 pulls back the curtain. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Every single injustice was positioning. Every silent year was preparation. Think about David, anointed king as a teenager, then hunted like a criminal through caves and wilderness for years, hidden, overlooked, misrepresented, living in conditions that made no sense for a man with a crown promised over his head. He was not forgotten. He was being formed. And Malachi 3:3 tells us exactly what that forming looks like. He sits as a refiner and purifier of silver. He purifies and refines. A refiner does not throw metal into fire out of anger. He sits beside that fire. He watches it with precision. He knows the exact temperature. He knows exactly how long to leave it in the heat, and he does not remove it until he can see his own reflection in the surface. God was not punishing you in that fire, beloved. He was sitting beside it, watching you, waiting until your character was refined enough to reflect his image back to a broken world. Romans 8:28 does not say some things work together for good. It says all things. The betrayal, the grief, the diagnosis, the financial collapse, the years of invisible faithful service that nobody celebrated, all of it working together for good. But if it was a test, what exactly were you being tested for? Why would heaven spend decades refining one person with that level of intensity? Why would God allow that much pressure on one life? Because what is coming requires it. You were not being prepared for something small. You were not being refined for a comfortable retirement and a quiet exit. The weight of what heaven is about to place in your hands required a foundation that could only be built through what you survived. A bridge groans the loudest right before it carries its greatest load. A soldier endures the hardest training right before the most critical deployment. Gold endures the hottest flame right before it becomes something of irreplaceable value. You were not being punished for weakness. You were being prepared for weight. Whisper it to yourself right now. Let your own ears hear it. It was preparation. Because once you truly receive that truth, once it moves from your mind into the marrow of your bones, the next question changes everything. If the test is finished, what exactly did heaven discover about you while you were in it? Chosen ones, you passed. It's time to tell you everything. April 14 and 15. Let me ask you something. Nobody ever asked you directly, why did you have to carry so much? While your neighbors seemed to glide through life on smooth roads, you were hauling weight that would have buckled most people at the knees. While others laughed easy and slept sound, you were up at midnight holding a family together with bare hands and borrowed faith. You never said it out loud, but the question lived in you. God, why me? And beloved, heaven has been waiting a long time to answer that. Here is the truth that will either shake you or set you free, probably both. Not everyone is trusted with depth. Some souls are built for shallow water, safe shores, comfortable seasons, and there is nothing wrong with that. But you were not built for shallow water. You were constructed for something different, something rarer, something that required a foundation most people never develop, because most people never get pressed hard enough to need one. God does not give heavy loads to fragile vessels. He gives them to load-bearing walls, and that is what you became. Not by accident, not by bad luck, not because heaven forgot to protect you, but because something was being built inside you that could only take shape under pressure. Think about the olive. It gives no oil until it is crushed. The pressing is not punishment. The pressing is the point. You were being pressed, beloved. And what came out of you? The patience, the endurance, the quiet strength, the ability to sit with someone in their worst moment without flinching. That was the oil. That was what heaven was after all along. You were the one who held the family together when it should have shattered. You were the one everyone called at 2 inches the morning when their world collapsed. You were the one who kept showing up to funerals, to hospital rooms, to crisis after crisis, after burying pieces of yourself along the way. And you did it without applause, without recognition, without anyone asking if you were okay. That was not weakness dressed up as strength. That was a lighthouse standing in storm winds, not shaking, not moving, just shining. Because if you went dark, ships would wreck on the rocks. Moses carried 2 million people through a wilderness, not because he was the strongest man in Egypt, because God saw something in him that could bear the weight of a nation without being crushed by it. Anna waited in that temple for 84 years, fasting, praying, holding vigil over a promise most people had stopped believing in. And when the moment came, she was still there, still standing, still carrying what heaven had placed in her hands. Caleb was 85 years old when he looked at a mountain full of giants and said, "Give me this mountain!" Not because age had made him reckless, because decades of faithfulness had made him unbreakable. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, his own special people." Special people carry special weight. That is not cruelty. That is calling. Now hear me clearly on this, because I need you to separate two things in your spirit. God did not enjoy your pain. He is not a God who sits on his throne watching his children suffer and calling it entertainment. Romans 8:28 does not say he caused everything. It says he works everything. There is a difference. The enemy meant the weight for collapse. God used it for construction. Every betrayal that should have made you bitter built discernment instead. Every loss that should have emptied you deepened your capacity for compassion. Every season of silence that should have broken your faith forged something in your spine that no storm since has been able to bend. Iron, in the soul of a chosen one, is not born in comfort. It is born in the fire. You are an old oak tree, beloved. While shallow-rooted lives snap in the first serious wind, you have been standing. Because your roots went down in the dark, in the grief, in the years nobody saw. Those roots are why you are still here. Those roots are what makes you unmovable when everyone around you is falling apart. But I need to ask you something that will stay with you long after this message ends. If the weight proved your capacity, what is coming that requires that kind of capacity? You were not pressed to produce oil just to sit on a shelf. Oil is meant to be poured out. Light is meant to be carried into dark places. Strength like yours was not built just to survive your own story. It was built to become someone else's miracle. The weight was not there to crush you. It was there to prove you could carry what is coming. And what is coming, chosen one, is greater than anything the weight ever was. If that lands in your spirit right now, say it. I felt the weight. Because the one who felt it and survived it is exactly the one heaven is about to use. Chosen one, before heaven can give you anything new, it must first show you something true. And truth, real truth, does not arrive with fanfare. It does not come wrapped in excitement or riding on emotion. Truth arrives quietly, like a mirror wiped clean after years of dust, like a sealed letter finally opened. Like dawn breaking across a dark skyline, not explosive, not dramatic, just undeniable. April 14 is that dawn, not a date pulled from thin air, a threshold, the first gate. The day heaven asks you to stop running from what you already know deep in your bones. Here is what this day requires of you. Not performance, not pretending, not one more layer of spiritual decoration painted over a wound that never fully healed. It requires honesty, because here is what I need to ask you directly, and I need you to sit with this question before you answer it. What name have you been answering to? Not the name on your birth certificate, not the name your mother gave you. I mean the name that followed you into every room for the last decade, the name you rehearsed in the mirror on your hardest mornings, the name the enemy whispered so many times you stopped recognizing it as a lie and started wearing it like a coat. Forgotten, too old, disqualified, finished. Say nothing yet. Just feel whether that landed, because Jacob felt it too. Genesis 32 tells us, He wrestled all night with the angel of God alone, in the dark, beside a river with no witnesses. And at the breaking of dawn, God did not immediately give him a blessing. He asked him a question first. "What is your name?" Now understand, God already knew his name. This was not a request for information. This was an invitation to confession, because Jacob's name meant deceiver. And God was asking him, before the blessing could come, to own what he had been carrying. And Jacob answered honestly. And in that honesty, everything changed. God said, "Your name is no longer Jacob. It is Israel, prince with God." The blessing came after the recognition, not before. That is April 14. This is the day you stop calling yourself forgotten and recognize you were kept. Stop calling yourself disqualified and recognize you were refined. Stop calling yourself too old and recognize you were being entrusted. Stop calling yourself finished and recognize you are still appointed. Those are not the same things. They never were. Think about Peter. After the denial, after the rooster crowed and his world collapsed in shame, Jesus did not ignore what happened. He did not skip past it with a motivational speech. John 21 tells us, Jesus looked Peter directly in the eye and asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" 3 times. Once for every denial, not to humiliate him, to restore him through truth. Restoration does not begin with hype, it begins with honest confrontation. And then there is Elijah. 1 Kings 19. This man had just called down fire from heaven. He had stood alone against 450 false prophets and won. But one threatening letter from one woman sent him running into the wilderness, collapsing under a tree, begging God to let him die. And what did God ask him in that cave? "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Not with anger, with gravity, with the kind of sacred seriousness that says, "I see you. I see what you have told yourself. I see the story you have been living inside. And it is time to come out. Beloved, what cave have you been living in? What story have you been telling yourself so long that you stopped questioning whether it was even true? Because here is what I know about the people watching this right now. You are not lazy. You are not faithless. You are not disqualified. You are exhausted from carrying a false name on top of a real calling. And that combination, the weight of who you truly are pressed under the lie of who you told yourself you were, that is a specific kind of suffering that does not have a medical diagnosis. But heaven has a name for it: mismatch. And April 14 is the day the mismatch ends. Right now, I want you to do something that will cost you something real. Reach into your spirit and pull out the lie that has followed you the longest. Not the surface lie, the deep one, the one you have never said out loud, the one that colored every decade of your adult life, the one that made you shrink when you should have stood. Hold it in front of you. Now break agreement with it. Say it plainly, say it firmly, say it like your future depends on it, because it does. That name is not mine anymore. Because April 14 is the day the lie loses its name over you. But recognition, beloved, is only the first gate. Because April 15 is not about seeing, April 15 is about stepping. And what you step into tomorrow will require everything that today just freed in you. Yesterday you received the verdict. Today you have to decide what to do with it. Because here is what nobody tells you about breakthrough. It does not always arrive as thunder. It does not always shake the walls or fill the room with blinding light. Sometimes breakthrough arrives as a quiet, terrifying decision made in an ordinary moment on an ordinary morning. And this is that morning. April 15 is not a celebration day, it is a crossing day. The Israelites stood at the Jordan River for a reason. God did not part those waters while they were still camped. He parted them the moment the priests put their feet in. Joshua 3:13. The instant the sole of their foot touched the water, the river split wide open. Heaven was waiting for the step, not the feeling, not the certainty, the step. And beloved, your feet are at the water's edge right now. But before you step, there is something God needs to release from you first. Something you have been carrying so long you forgot it was not yours to carry. your old identity. The one built from every person who looked at you and said, too old, too late, too far gone. The one assembled from decades of playing small, apologizing for your presence, shrinking so others could feel comfortable. The one that started calling your remaining years, leftover years, as if God runs out of purpose after 65, as if heaven looks at your gray hair and says, we are done here. Let me be direct with you. That identity is a lie, and today it dies. Ezekiel stood in a valley of dry bones, not one sign of life, not one pulse, not one breath. And God looked at that prophet and said, speak to the bones. Ezekiel 37:4. Not pray over them, not weep for them, speak to them. God needed a voice, your voice, aimed at what looked finished. Some of you have been weeping over your dry bones for 20 years when heaven has been waiting for you to open your mouth and prophesy over them. So what does April 15 ask of you practically? It asks you to call that estranged child, not when the timing feels right. Now, you have rehearsed that conversation 10,000 times in your head. Stop rehearsing, dial. It asks you to write the testimony you have kept locked in your chest because you thought nobody would care. Someone is sitting in a hospital room tonight who needs exactly what you survived. Your story is not a memoir, it is medicine. It asks you to start that prayer circle you felt called to build years ago and buried under the excuse of, I am not qualified enough. You have been through the fire. That is your qualification. It asks you to mentor the younger believer who is falling apart the same way you once fell apart. You know exactly what they need because you needed it, and nobody showed up. Show up. It asks you to reclaim the hidden gift, the painting, the music, the teaching, the gift you laid down because life got heavy and you told yourself it was selfish to pick it back up. It was never selfish, it was sacred, and it is still waiting. But here is the question I know is rising in your spirit right now. Why now? Why April 15? Why not 5 years ago when I still had more energy, more time, more options? Because there was one thing God had to finish in you first. He had to burn out the version of you that needed human approval to move. He had to strip away every false foundation until the only thing left standing was pure, unshakable faith. He had to make sure that when he released you, you would run toward your calling instead of toward applause. You were not ready 5 years ago. You are ready now. Esther did not step into the king's court when it was convenient. She stepped in when an entire people would die if she did not, for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. Not for such a time as when I feel prepared, for such a time as this. This is your this. The trumpet has been polished in silence long enough. Every trial, every night of weeping, every season of hiddenness was God's hands working the instrument, preparing the sound. And April 15 is when the trumpet finally sounds, not quietly, not apologetically, boldly. Some breakthroughs are not dramatic events. They are decisive, internal alignments that change the entire direction of a life. Nobody in the room may notice the moment it happens, but heaven does. And the ripple of that one decision will touch your children, your grandchildren, and people you will never meet on this side of eternity. April 15 is when what was formed in silence begins to move in public. You have one assignment right now, not tomorrow, right now. Say it out loud where your own ears can hear it. I will not die in hiding. Say it again, louder, until your bones believe it. Because what God built in you during the darkness was never meant to stay there, and the door is open. Right now, today. The only question left is whether you will walk through it. Now I need you to lean in close, because this is the part nobody tells you. This is the part that explains everything. The delays, the silence, the years that felt like God had your file sitting on his desk and just never opened it. You want to know why the disclosure took this long? Because you were not ready to carry it. Not yet. And beloved, that is not an insult. That is the most loving thing heaven could have ever done for you. Here is the truth that will rearrange everything you thought you understood about your waiting season. God was not withholding the blessing, He was finishing the vessel. You cannot pour premium wine into a cracked cup. You cannot place a crown on a head that hasn't learned how to bow. You cannot hand a loaded assignment to someone who still confuses ego with authority. So God went to work, in the dark, in the silence, in the very seasons you called abandonment. He was building something underground that you could not see. Think about a skyscraper on Fifth Avenue. Before one single floor rises above street level, the foundation goes down, deep, 40, 50, 60 feet into the earth, invisible to everyone walking past. And if you didn't know better, you'd look at that construction site for months and think nothing is happening. That was your life, chosen one. Something was happening. You just couldn't see it from street level. Joseph could not rule Egypt at 17. He had the dream, he had the calling, he had the anointing, but he had not yet developed the one thing a ruler cannot fake, the ability to hold power without being corrupted by it. It took the pit. It took Potiphar's house. It took prison. It took being forgotten by the very man he helped. 13 years of formation before one afternoon of elevation. Moses could not lead 2 million people at 40 the way he could at 80. At 40, he was still operating out of his own strength, his own strategy, his own Egyptian education. But after 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep, after decades of silence and obscurity, God looked at him and said, Now you are ready. Now you will not take my glory." David needed the cave before the crown. The Psalms he wrote in hiding, the faith he forged while Saul hunted him like an animal that suffering produced a king who understood mercy because he had needed it. A king who understood injustice because he had survived it. A king after God's own heart, not despite the wilderness, but because of it. Do you see the pattern? The delay was never the enemy. The delay was the curriculum. And here is where I need you to stop and honestly ask yourself something. Are you the same person you were when the pain first hit? Do you pray the same? Do you love the same? Do you see people the same? Beloved, you know the answer. You know something shifted inside you so fundamentally that you almost don't recognize who you used to be. You used to pray desperate prayers full of demands. Now you pray with a surrender that took years to learn. You used to love people based on what they gave back. Now you love with a depth that doesn't require a receipt. You used to judge quickly. Now you see the wound behind the wound. That is not aging. That is not just wisdom. That is formation. God was finishing 5 specific things in you, and every single one of them took exactly as long as it needed to take. He was building humility that doesn't collapse under pressure, compassion that doesn't turn naive, discernment that never curdled into bitterness, authority that carries no ego in its luggage, and endurance that tells no self-pity story. You cannot manufacture those things in a weekend revival. You cannot download them from a sermon series. They are forged the same way steel is tempered through repeated fire, cooling, fire again, cooling again, until the metal holds an edge that never dulls. They are cultivated the way fine wine ages in darkness, in pressure, in sealed silence, until what comes out is something that took years to become what it is. They are tuned the way a master instrument is tuned, not by loosening the strings, but by tightening them, stretching them to the precise tension that produces the right sound. So what exactly have you become in the dark? And why are people already responding to you differently, even before your full release has come? Because they can feel it. They cannot name it, but they feel it. The weight you carry now is not the weight of suffering anymore. It is the weight of substance, of depth, of a person who has been somewhere most people have never been and came back carrying something they cannot explain. The silence was not empty. It was concentrated formation. Write this down. Put it somewhere you will see it every single morning. God was making me able to carry it. Not punishing you, not forgetting you, not replacing you. Making you able. And now that you understand what he was finishing in you, there is one more thing you need to know. Something about what he was simultaneously preparing around you, moving into position while you were being formed in the dark. What was heaven arranging on your behalf while you couldn't see a single thing moving? That answer changes everything. You passed the test. But beloved, passing leaves marks. Not the kind you hide, not the kind you apologize for, the kind that tell the whole story without you saying a single word. And right now, I need you to look at yourself honestly, because what I'm about to describe is not a personality type, it is not a spiritual gift you were born with. It is the evidence, the unmistakable, heaven-stamped evidence of someone who went through the fire and came out carrying something most people will never possess. Here are the marks. Mark 1. You became a safe place for wounded people. You didn't advertise it. You didn't hang a sign. But somehow, in every hospital waiting room, in every funeral home hallway, in every family gathering where tension sat at the table like an uninvited guest, people found their way to you. They'd pull you aside, voice dropping, eyes shifting, and suddenly you'd be holding someone's secret like it was sacred, because for them it was. You didn't earn that by being charming. You earned it by surviving your own bleeding in silence. Suffering, when surrendered, becomes sanctuary. And you became one. Mark 2. Your discernment sharpened through betrayal. You know things now that you cannot explain in a conversation. You feel deception before it speaks. You sense when a smile is a mask. You recognize the spirit behind the words before the words finish landing. That's not cynicism, chosen one. That's consecration. Every person who betrayed your trust, every friendship that turned hollow, every relationship that collapsed under the weight of their own dishonesty, none of it was wasted. It was training. Heaven sharpened your spiritual vision through the very pain that tried to blind you. Proverbs 20:12 says it plainly. The hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord has made them both. You see clearly now, and that clarity is not a burden, it is armor. Mark 3. You stopped needing applause to remain faithful. Think about the prayers you prayed that nobody witnessed, the sacrifices you made that nobody posted about, the quiet faithfulness in lonely kitchens at 6 inches the morning when the house was still, and you chose God anyway. No camera, no audience, no validation, just you and heaven. And you kept showing up. That is the mark of someone who passed. Because the ones who needed applause, they stopped when the crowd left. But you didn't stop. You couldn't stop. Something inside you refused. Anna in the temple, 84 years old, widowed young, no platform, no following, just decades of fasting and prayer that nobody televised. And when the Messiah arrived, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Luke 2:38. Because faithfulness in secret always produces presence at the appointed moment. Mark 4. Your compassion survived your pain. This one should stop you cold. After everything you endured, the grief, the betrayal, the silence, the loss, you did not become hard. You did not close. You did not build walls so high that love couldn't reach you anymore. You stayed soft. And beloved, that is not weakness. That is one of the rarest miracles heaven produces in a human being. Job lost everything. And after the fire, after the ash, after the silence of God that lasted longer than any human should have to endure, he prayed for the very friends who had failed him. Job 42:10. And God restored him. Your compassion surviving your pain is not an accident. It is a resurrection. Mark 5. Your presence carries peace into chaos. You walk into a room and something shifts. You sit beside someone drowning in anxiety and their breathing slows. You don't have to say anything profound. You just have to be there. That is not personality. That is fragrance. When a flower is crushed, it releases its deepest scent. You have been crushed, chosen one. And what was released from you, that peace, that steadiness, that unshakable quiet, it fills every room you enter. You are a harbor for storm-tossed ships, a lantern in blackout conditions, and people are drawn to you because the world outside is dark and you have learned to carry light in your bones. Mark 6. You outgrew spaces that once defined you. Certain rooms feel too small now. Certain conversations feel hollow. Certain titles, certain circles, certain versions of success that used to feel like everything, they feel like nothing now. That's not ingratitude. That's growth you can't undo. Simeon waited his entire life for one moment. One. And when it came, Luke 2:29, he said simply, "Now let your servant depart in peace," because he had seen what he was made to see. He had become who he was made to become, and nothing smaller would satisfy him again. Nothing smaller will satisfy you again either. Mark 7. You can no longer pretend you are ordinary. You've tried. Lord knows you've tried to shrink back, blend in, stay quiet, not make waves. But it doesn't work anymore. The calling burns too hot. The mark is too visible. The presence is too undeniable. You thought all you had left were scars. Heaven says those scars became signatures. If these are the marks of someone who passed and beloved, they are yours. Then the question that should be shaking you right now is this: why would heaven spend decades building this exact kind of person? What assignment requires this precise combination of compassion, discernment, peace, and unbreakable faith? Comment right now. 3 words. I carry the marks. Because the answer to that question, the assignment heaven has been building you toward, that is exactly where we are going next. Let me tell you something that religion never quite said loudly enough. Your life was never background noise in someone else's story. You were never the supporting cast. You were never the leftover generation, the ones who missed their window, the ones heaven quietly moved past while chasing younger, louder, more visible vessels. No, you were the hidden carriers, the ones buried in the ground like seeds while the world walked overhead, completely unaware of what was forming in the dark. And now, right now, the ground is breaking open. Joel 2:28 declares it without apology. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, not past tense, not someday, present tense, active tense. God was not describing a retirement ceremony. He was describing a deployment. You were not benched. You were being loaded. Psalm 92:14 says it even plainer. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green, not fading, not finishing, bearing fruit, still producing, still releasing what took decades to grow. So let me ask you something that might shake loose everything you thought you knew about your place in this world. What if the most dangerous, most irreplaceable, most heaven-authorized assignment on American soil right now is not sitting in a megachurch pulpit? What if it is sitting at your kitchen table? What if it is your voice on the phone with a grandchild who is one bad decision away from a life they cannot come back from? What if it is your presence in a room full of frightened people who have never seen anyone endure what you endured and still choose to praise? America does not only need youth with energy, America needs elders with oil. There is a difference between energy and oil. Energy burns fast. Energy is loud. Energy runs on emotion and momentum. But oil is what keeps the lamp burning at midnight. Oil is what was pressed out of you during every season of crushing. Oil is what you carry now, that no seminary can teach and no shortcut can manufacture. You are not a puddle, you are a well. And this generation is dying of thirst. Think about Caleb, 85 years old, standing at the edge of his inheritance, and he did not ask for a rocking chair. He said, "Give me this mountain, not give me rest, not give me recognition. Give me the hard thing. Give me the assignment that requires everything I was forged to carry." That was not youthful arrogance. That was the confidence of a man who had been tested long enough to know exactly who was walking with him. That is you, chosen one. Think about Anna, 84 years old, fasting and praying in the temple. And when the moment of prophecy arrived, she was not somewhere comfortable. She was at her post. She recognized the Messiah when trained theologians missed him entirely because she had been paying attention for decades. Her years were not wasted years. They were watching years, waiting years, years that sharpened her spiritual vision to a precision nobody younger could match. Think about Moses, 80 years old when God finally said now, not 20, not 40, 80. Because some assignments cannot be carried by someone who has not yet survived enough to know that the burning bush is not about them. And Titus 2 makes it plain. The older ones are to teach what is good, to train, to anchor, to pass down what was learned in fire, so the next generation does not have to learn it the hard way. You are not retired from that assignment. You are the assignment. The families fracturing around you need someone who remembers what held families together. The young believers losing their faith need someone who kept theirs when there was no logical reason to. The children growing up in chaos need someone whose presence alone communicates that peace is possible, that endurance is real, that God does not abandon his people. You are a general, not a retiree. You are an old cathedral bell that still carries sound across miles of noise. You are a torchbearer, crossing fire to hand, the flame to hands that do not yet know how to hold it without dropping it. And here is the climax of everything heaven has been building toward in your story. You passed because heaven needed someone who could carry fire without using it for themselves. Not for fame, not for applause, not for a platform with your name on it, but for the quiet, unshakable, generational work of stabilizing what is shaking, healing what is bleeding, and restoring courage in people who are one moment away from giving up forever. That was always your assignment. Hidden, costly, essential. Say it out loud right now. Let your own ears hear it. My life was not wasted. My oil still matters. Say it again like you mean it. Because, beloved, what I am about to reveal next will show you exactly what you must finally release before you can fully step into everything heaven just described. And that one thing, that final thing, may surprise you more than anything else in this message. Beloved, we have come too far in this hour for you to walk away still carrying what heaven already buried. So right now, I need you to stop. Just stop. Not to rest, to reckon, because there is a voice that has been speaking over your life for decades. Not God's voice, not the voice of truth. A voice that learned your name early, studied your wounds carefully, and has been whispering the same poisonous script into your spirit ever since. And tonight, that voice gets evicted. You have been living under a story that was never yours. A story written by your failures, signed by your regrets, and stamped with every lie the enemy could press into the soft places of your heart. And that story has had one mission: to convince you that you are too late, too old, too broken, too far gone. Let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. How many mornings have you looked in that mirror and heard it before your feet even hit the floor? You missed your moment. Your best years are behind you. What could God possibly still do with someone like you? How many times have you sat in church, in your kitchen, in that quiet living room, and felt the burning of a calling in your chest, only to drown it immediately with the cold water of your own doubt? That is not humility, beloved. That is a lie wearing humility's clothing. And it has cost you enough. Isaiah 43:18 declares it plainly. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. Not because your past didn't happen, but because God has already moved beyond it, and He is waiting for you to catch up. So let's do this together. Right now, out loud if you can. Repeat after me in your spirit. I release the lie that says, I am too old. Moses was 80 years old standing at that burning bush. 80. And God looked at him and said, I am sending you. Not I was sending you. Not I would have sent you if you'd gotten here sooner. I am sending you. Present tense. Active assignment. No expiration date. I release the lie that says I missed my moment. Lazarus was 4 days dead, 4 days in the grave, wrapped in burial cloth, sealed in darkness, while the mourners outside had already moved on. And Jesus didn't arrive early. He arrived exactly on time. He stood at that tomb and called a dead man back to life. Those grave clothes didn't slowly loosen. They fell. Suddenly. Completely. That is what is happening to you right now. I release the lie that says my mistakes disqualified me. Romans 11:29 does not whisper. It thunders. The gifts and calling of God are irrevocable. That word, irrevocable, means it cannot be recalled, reversed, or revoked. Not by your worst season. Not by your longest silence. Not by the years you wandered, doubted, or fell. God does not take back what He placed in you. He waits for you to pick it back up. I release the lie that says, my pain meant God passed me by. Every scar you carry is not evidence of abandonment. It is evidence of survival. And survival, beloved, is not accidental. You were preserved through that pain because what God placed inside you was too important to let the fire consume. I release the lie that says nothing meaningful can still happen through me. Isaiah 60:1 is not a suggestion, it is a command. Arise, shine, for your light has come. Not your light is coming. Not your light might come if you get yourself together. Your light has come. It is already here. It is already in you. The only question is whether you will rise to meet it. The past may explain you, but it no longer owns you. Read that again in your spirit. Let it land somewhere deep. The chains that held you were real. The pain was real. The losses were real. But right now, in this sacred moment, those chains are rusting off in real time. The ashes are giving way to breath. The grave clothes are falling. And what is rising in their place is not a restored version of who you used to be. It is the version heaven always intended. Now open your mouth. Speak this declaration like you mean every single word. I release the past. I reject the lie of being too late. I accept that I was chosen, kept, and prepared for this hour. Say it again, louder. Because heaven heard you the first time, and the enemy needs to hear you the second. Beloved, the old story just died in this room. And what rises from these ashes is not comfort. It is commission. Because now that the lies have been buried and the truth has taken root, there is one question heaven is leaning forward to ask you directly. Now that you know who you really are, what are you going to do about it? Chosen one, stay with me. Because what I am about to say is not a closing. It is a coronation. You came into this message carrying something heavy. Maybe you couldn't name it. Maybe you've been carrying it so long you forgot what it felt like to put it down. But heaven knew exactly what it was. It was the weight of a test you never got credit for passing. That ends tonight. Let me remind you of what just happened in this hour. You were tested not casually, not lightly, but at depths that would have destroyed someone without your particular kind of faith. You were pressed in places nobody photographed. You grieved in rooms nobody entered. You kept believing when the evidence said, stop, and you passed. Not almost, not barely, passed. The pain was not punishment, it was preparation. Every year that felt wasted was a semester. Every loss that felt random was a lesson. Every silence from heaven that felt like abandonment was God watching you so closely. He didn't need to speak because He was grading every move you made in the dark. Hebrews 12:11 says it plainly. No discipline feels good at the time, but afterward it produces a harvest of righteousness. Afterward. Beloved, you are living in your afterward. April 14th is your recognition. The moment heaven reads the verdict aloud over your life. Not someday, now, tonight. In the next 24 hours, something is going to shift in your spirit that no person put there and no person can remove. And April 15th is your release. The dam breaks, the river moves. What was held back by seasons of testing begins to flow into the open land of your assignment. You are not waiting for permission anymore. The decree has already been issued from a throne room higher than any courtroom on this earth. Now I need to ask you something that might be the most important question you answer this week. How are you going to walk out of this message? Because you have two choices. You can nod your head, feel good for an hour, and go back to narrating yourself as someone whose best years are behind them. Or you can do something radical. You can walk into the next 48 hours like someone who just received a king's verdict in their favor. Pray with authority, not begging, declaring. Romans 8:15 says, "You have not received a spirit of fear but of adoption," and adopted. Children don't crawl to their father, they run. Speak with dignity. Stop telling your story like it ends in the wilderness. The wilderness was the middle, not the conclusion. You are the watchman taking post at dawn, not the soldier retreating at midnight. Stop agreeing with every thought that calls you finished. That thought is a lie wearing the costume of experience. Refuse it, name it, dismiss it, and take one concrete step of obedience today. One phone call you've been avoiding. One prayer you stopped praying because it felt too bold. One dream you buried because someone told you it was too late. Dig it up. Moses was 80 years old when God handed him his greatest assignment. 80. Your age is not your expiration date. It is your authorization code. Now I want to speak to you directly, not as a preacher, not as a teacher, as someone who believes heaven arranged for you to hear every single word spoken in this hour. You were never just surviving. You were being certified by the fire. Every furnace you walked through left a mark not of damage, but of proof. Proof that you are made of material that does not melt. Proof that the presence of God was in the fire with you. Proof that what the enemy designed to destroy you only revealed what you were made of all along. Let us pray together. Father, I stand before you, carrying every chosen one who heard this word today. You know their name. You know the years. You know every silent room, every hidden tear, every morning they got up when everything said stay down. Restore their courage now, not tomorrow, now. Clear the fog from their mind. Heal the identity that was wounded by years of being overlooked. Give them back their voice. Let their latter years be so fruitful that people who watch them suffer stand in awe of what you restored. Bring peace into their homes. Bring purpose into their remaining years. Let them never again speak about themselves as forgotten, because you have not forgotten a single one of them. Seal this word deep. Let it hold. In the mighty name of Jesus Christ, amen. Chosen one, if this word found you at the exact right moment, and I believe it did type right now, I passed and I am ready, then share this with the person in your life who believes their story is already behind them. Be the vessel heaven uses to remind them it is not. For the next 2 days, refuse every single thought that speaks to you like you are finished. April 14th may show you what ended. April 15th may show you what begins. But heaven's verdict is already in. You passed.